I am Lydia, 30 years old, and until 6 weeks ago, I was just a coffee shop owner, grinding beans and serving smiles in our quiet Colorado suburb. My husband, Mark, was my rock, or so I thought, until I caught him whispering promises to our neighbor, Tara, in our own backyard. When I confronted them, Tara smirked and said, "Sell the coffee shop, Lydia, or we'll make sure everyone knows you're a failure." I didn't scream or cry, though my heart shattered like a dropped mug. Instead, I packed a bag, walked out of the house we'd built together, and started planning. 10 days later, I had 35 missed calls, and that was just the start of my strategy to turn their betrayal into their regret. They thought they could break me, but they'd learn I was stronger than they ever imagined. If you want to see a cheater's plan crumble, stick around for this story on total revenge. The aroma of roasted coffee and cinnamon scones filled my shop, rude awakening, as I pushed through the back door, my keys clinking like loose change in my pocket. Morning light streamed through the tall windows, painting the reclaimed wood tables with soft gold, a warmth that usually steadied my nerves. Today, it felt hollow, the air thick with a tension I couldn't name. Mark hadn't come home last night, texting something vague about a late meeting, his third excuse that week. Tara, our neighbor who lived 3 houses down, had stopped by the shop too often lately, her laughter too loud, her glances at Mark too long. I shook it off, setting a tray of fresh muffins on the counter, their blueberry scent mixing with the bitterness of my unease. "Lydia, can you whip up a quick latte?" Tara called from a corner table, her voice syrupy, her designer purse gleaming under the cafe lights. I forced a smile, my apron strings tight against my waist, and nodded, though my gut churned with suspicion. "Lydia, I've got the morning rush covered if you need a breather," said Jenna, my barista and best friend, her eyes catching the strain in mine. I thanked her, wiping flour from my hands, the grit grounding me as I moved to the espresso machine. Tara watched me, her manicured nails tapping her phone, her blonde hair catching the light like a warning. "Make it quick, Lydia, I've got places to be," she added, her tone sharp, as if I were her personal barista, not the owner. The bell above the door jingled and Mark walked in, his collared shirt wrinkled, his smile too wide for 8 a.m. "Morning, babe," he said, kissing my cheek, but his eyes flicked to Tara, a silent exchange that stabbed my chest. I pulled the espresso shot, the machine's hiss drowning out my racing thoughts, and handed Tara her latte, the foam perfect despite my shaking hands. "You two seem cozy," I said, my voice steady, though my heart pounded like a drum. Mark laughed, too loud, brushing off my comment as he grabbed a coffee from Jenna, his fingers lingering on the cup. "Just grabbing a quick drink before work," he said, but his car keys, already in hand, told me he wasn't staying. Tara stood, smoothing her skirt, and followed him to the door, her shoulder brushing his as they stepped outside. I watched through the window as they lingered by his truck, her hand on his arm, their heads close, whispering. Jenna touched my shoulder, her voice low. "Lydia, that didn't look right, you okay?" I nodded, though my stomach twisted, the coffee's bitter scent now sour in my nose. I busied myself wiping the counter, the rag damp in my grip, but my eyes stayed on them, their laughter carrying through the glass. That night, I sat in our backyard, the chirping crickets a stark contrast to the silence in our house, and heard them again, Mark's low voice and Tara's giggle, drifting from her patio. I crept closer, hidden by the cedar fence, my sneakers silent on the grass. "We need her to sell," Mark, Tara whispered, her voice sharp with greed. "Brood Awakening's worth $2 million. We could start over anywhere." Mark's reply was softer, but clear. "She'll cave, Tara, she always does. Just give it time." My blood turned cold, my fingers digging into the fence's rough wood, splinters biting my skin. They were planning to take my shop, my dream, built with every cent of my savings and years of 16-hour days. I slipped back inside, my breath shallow, and locked the bedroom door, my mind racing with their words. By morning, I'd decided to confront them, not with tears, but with a plan to protect what was mine. I packed a duffel bag, the zipper loud in the quiet house, stuffing in clothes, my laptop, and a photo of Mark and me from our wedding 5 years ago. His smile now ALIE.AT the shop. I waited until the lunch rush slowed, the scent of fresh espresso lingering as customers dwindled. Mark and Tara walked in together, their ease too practiced, their smiles too smug. "Lydia, we need to talk," Mark said, leaning against the counter, his cologne sharp and unfamiliar. Tara stood beside him, her arms crossed, her eyes glinting with challenge. "It's time to sell the shop," she said, her voice cold. "You're barely breaking even, and we need the money for a fresh start." I set down the rag, my hands steady despite the fire in my chest, and looked at Mark. "A fresh start with her, you mean?" I asked, my voice calm, watching his face pale, his confidence cracking like thin ice. Mark stammered, his eyes darting to Tara, who didn't flinch. "Don't make this messy, Lydia," she said, stepping closer, her perfume overwhelming the coffee aroma. "Sell now, or we'll tell everyone you're running the shop into the ground, cheating customers, cutting corners." My jaw tightened, their threat a blade to my reputation, built on years of honest work. "You're cheating with my husband, Tara, and you think you can bully me into giving up my business?" I said, my words sharp, cutting through their bravado. Mark's face reddened, but he doubled down. "We're done, Lydia. Sell the shop, or we'll make sure you lose everything." Jenna overheard, her eyes wide, but I signaled her to stay quiet, my mind already plotting. "Get out," I said, pointing to the door, my voice steady as steel, and they left, Tara's laugh echoing like a taunt. I closed the shop early, the click of the lock loud in the empty space, and sat in the back office, my laptop glowing in the dim light. Financial records stared back, invoices, bank statements, loans I hadn't questioned. Mark had access to the business account, handling deposits when I was swamped, but something felt off. I dug deeper, finding withdrawals, $10,000 here, $15,000 there, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I traced them to Tara's name, her signature on vendor contracts I'd never approved. They'd been siphoning money for months, nearly $300,000, bleeding my shop dry while planning their escape. I called Jenna, my voice shaking but firm. "I need your help. They're stealing from the shop, and I'm going to stop them." Jenna arrived in 20 minutes, her pickup crunching gravel in the lot, her face set with loyalty. "I knew Mark was trouble," she said, scanning the records, her fingers tapping the desk. "Tara's been cozying up to suppliers, saying you're retiring, trying to take over accounts." My stomach churned, their betrayal deeper than an affair, a calculated theft of my life's work. We spent hours cross-referencing invoices, finding fake orders for supplies never delivered, payments funneled to Tara's accounts. "We need evidence," I said, my voice steady, the coffee shop's hum replaced by the buzz of determination. Jenna nodded, pulling out her phone, where she'd recorded Tara flirting with Mark during a shift, their whispers about selling soon. I saved the files to a USB drive, my hands steady, and booked a room at Pinewood Motel, the only place in town I could afford without touching the shop's dwindling funds. The motel room smelled of pine cleaner and damp carpet, its single bed sagging under a faded quilt. I spread my laptop and papers across a wobbly table, the neon sign outside flickering like a warning. The numbers didn't lie. Mark and Tara had drained $350,000, leaving the shop teetering on collapse. I called my lawyer, Sarah Coleman, her voice a lifeline through the phone static. "Lydia, this is fraud," she said, her tone sharp with focus. "We can freeze the accounts, file for a restraining order, and press charges, but we need more proof." I emailed her the records, Jenna's video, and a list of suppliers Tara had contacted, my fingers flying across the keys. "They threatened to ruin my reputation," I told her, the words bitter, "but I'm going to ruin theirs first." Sarah worked fast, freezing the business account by morning, the bank's confirmation email a small victory. I drove to the shop, the familiar scent of coffee grounding me as I unlocked the door. Jenna had rallied loyal customers who'd noticed Tara's odd requests for cash payments, their stories matching my records. "Mrs. Carter saw Tara take a delivery box last week, no invoice," Jenna said, her notepad filled with names. I called each customer, their voices warm with support, their details painting a picture of Tara's greed. By noon, I had statements from 5 regulars, their words a shield against her lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "Stop playing games. Lydia, unfreeze the account or you'll regret it." I deleted it, my resolve hardening, the coffee shop's warmth fueling my fight. That afternoon, I met Sarah at her office, a cozy space smelling of books and peppermint tea. She spread documents across her desk, her glasses glinting under the lamp. "Mark's been using your shop's credit to fund Tara's lifestyle," she said, pointing to a trail of transactions. "Clothing stores, hotels, even a car lease, all under your business name." My chest tightened, their betrayal a slow poison. But Sarah's plan was clear: file fraud charges, issue a cease and desist, and go public. "The town trusts you, Lydia," she said, her voice firm. "Expose them at the community fair tomorrow. Everyone will be there." I nodded, picturing Mark's smug face, Tara's taunting laugh, and my shop filled with loyal faces. "Let's do it," I said, my voice steady, ready to turn their betrayal into their downfall. The fairground buzzed with laughter and fried dough smells, the summer sun warm on my skin as I set up a booth for Brewed Awakening. I'd baked extra scones, their buttery scent drawing a crowd, each customer a reminder of why I fought. Jenna handed out free coffee, her smile rallying support, while Sarah prepared a press release for the local paper. My phone buzzed again, Mark, this time a voicemail. "Lydia, you're making a mistake. Meet us tonight. We can settle this." His voice dripped with false calm, but I heard Tara in the background, her laugh sharp. I saved the message, another piece of evidence, and focused on the fair, where neighbors stopped to share stories of Tara's odd behavior. "She told me you were selling," said Mr. Evans, a regular since I opened. "I knew it wasn't true. You love this place," he added, his words a spark to my resolve. By evening, the fair was packed, string lights twinkling above food stalls and music drifting from a local band. I stood at my booth, heart pounding, as Sarah handed me a microphone, the crowd quieting. "Thank you for supporting Brewed Awakening," I began, my voice steady despite the nerves. "Some of you know my husband, Mark, and our neighbor, Tara. They've been working together, but not in the way you think." Gasps rippled through the crowd as I detailed their affair, the stolen $350,000, and their threat to ruin me. I played Jenna's video on a portable screen, Mark's whispers to Tara clear, their plan to sell my shop exposed. "They thought I'd break," I said, my eyes scanning the stunned faces, "but this shop, this community, is my home, and I'm fighting for it." The crowd erupted in cheers, their support a wall against Mark and Tara's lies, my plan just beginning to unfold. I stood under the fairground's twinkling string lights, the microphone heavy in my hand, the crowd's cheers still echoing as I stepped off the makeshift stage. The scent of fried dough and cotton candy mingled with the crisp evening air, but my focus was on the faces before me, neighbors and customers whose support felt like armor against Mark and Tara's betrayal. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from the fire of exposing their lies, their affair, and their theft of $350,000 from my coffee shop, Brewed Awakening. Jenna, my barista and best friend, hugged me tightly, her coffee-stained apron brushing against mine as she whispered, "You did it, Lydia. They're done for." I nodded, but my mind was already racing to the next step, knowing Mark and Tara wouldn't back down without a fight. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Mark, "You'll pay for this, Lydia. Meet us at the shop, 10 p.m., or it gets worse." The threat sent a chill through me, but I smiled, clutching the USB drive with evidence of their fraud, ready to make them regret underestimating me. If you want to see a cheater's world collapse, stick around for the story on Total Revenge. The fairground's noise faded as I drove to Pinewood Motel, the gravel crunching under my tires, the neon sign flickering like a heartbeat in the dark. My motel room was dim, the air thick with pine cleaner, and I spread my laptop and papers across the wobbly table, the glow illuminating receipts and bank statements. Sarah Coleman, my lawyer, called as I sorted through the evidence, her voice steady through the phone's static. "Lydia, The press release hit the local paper's website, and the town's buzzing, but Mark's already spinning lies, saying you faked the numbers to frame him. My jaw tightened, the betrayal stinging anew, but I'd expected this. Mark always had a knack for twisting truth. I emailed Sarah the latest findings, fake invoices Tara had signed, draining $15,000 monthly for supplies never delivered. File the fraud charges tomorrow, I told her, my voice firm, the motel's creaking walls a reminder of how far I'd fallen, yet how fiercely I'd fight. And serve the cease and desist tonight. I'm meeting them at the shop, but I won't be alone. Jenna met me at Brood Awakening at 9:30 p.m., her pickup parked discreetly behind the shop, her flashlight cutting through the dark as we unlocked the back door. The familiar scent of roasted coffee and vanilla hit me, but the space felt different, tainted by Mark and Tara's greed. We set up a hidden camera in the office, its lens tucked behind a stack of recipe books, recording every word and move. If they threaten you again, we've got it on tape, Jenna said, her eyes fierce, her loyalty a lifeline in the chaos. I nodded, checking my phone, where Sarah had texted, "Sheriff's deputy will be nearby. Stay calm. Get them talking." The shop's front windows reflected the empty street, the town square quiet except for distant fairground music, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. My heart raced as headlights flashed, Mark's truck pulling up, Tara's silhouette beside him, their steps heavy as they entered through the front, the bell jingling like a warning. They thought they'd corner me, but I was ready, my plan unfolding with every calculated step. Mark stormed in, his face red, his collared shirt untucked, Tara trailing with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "You humiliated us, Lydia," he spat, slamming his keys on the counter, the clatter echoing in the quiet shop. "Unfreeze the account, retract that stunt at the fair, or we'll tell everyone you've been cheating on me for years." Tara stepped closer, her perfume sharp, her voice low and venomous. "We've got texts, photos, witnesses. You'll lose the shop and your precious reputation." My stomach churned, their lies a fresh wound, but I saw the panic in Mark's eyes, the cracks in their story. "You stole $350,000, I said, my voice steady, the camera's red light blinking in my mind. "You're sleeping with my neighbor, planning to sell my shop, and you think you can scare me with fake texts?" Mark laughed, but it was forced, his hands clenched, Tara's smirk faltering as I held their gaze, unflinching. "You've got no proof," Tara snapped, her nails digging into the counter, leaving faint scratches on the wood I'd polished for years. I pulled out my phone, playing Jenna's video, their whispers about selling the shop filling the air, their faces paling as the evidence hit. "The bank has records, Tara, your signatures on fake invoices, payments to your personal account," I said, stepping closer, the coffee scent grounding me. Mark's eyes darted to the door, but Jenna blocked it, her arms crossed, her presence a silent threat. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice shook, sweat beading on his forehead. "The sheriff's outside," I lied, my heart pounding, knowing the deputy was close, but not that close. Tara grabbed Mark's arm, her voice urgent. "Let's go, she's got nothing, we'll fight this in court." But I saw the fear in their eyes, and I knew I had them cornered, my plan tightening like a noose. The bell jingled again as Deputy Maria Gonzalez stepped in, her badge glinting under the shop's lights, her face calm but firm. "Lydia, you okay?" she asked, her eyes scanning Mark and Tara, who froze like deer in headlights. "I'm fine," I said, handing her the USB drive, my fingers steady despite the adrenaline. "This has their confessions, financial records, and video evidence of their fraud." Maria nodded, slipping the drive into her pocket, her voice sharp as she turned to Mark. "You're served with a cease and desist. Leave now, or I'll arrest you for trespassing." Tara's face twisted, her voice rising. "This is her word against ours. You can't prove anything." But Maria held up a hand, silencing her, and I felt a surge of triumph, their lies unraveling faster than I'd hoped. Mark grabbed Tara's arm, pulling her toward the door, his voice low and desperate. "This isn't over, Lydia. You'll regret dragging us through the mud." I stood tall, the shop's warmth wrapping around me like Paul's old sweater, my resolve unshaken. You betrayed me, Mark. You and Tara tried to steal my life, but I'm taking it back, I said, my words echoing in the quiet space. They left, the door slamming, the bell's chime fading into silence as Jenna hugged me, her breath shaky. You were badass, she said, her smile wide, but I knew the fight wasn't over, their threats still hanging like smoke. Maria stayed, reviewing the evidence, her notepad filling with details as I explained the stolen $350,000 and their plan to sell the shop. We'll file charges tomorrow, she said, her voice steady, but stay vigilant, they're desperate. I nodded, locking the shop, the click of the bolt a promise to protect what was mine. Back at the motel, the neon sign buzzed outside, casting shadows across my papers as I reviewed the night's footage on my laptop. The camera had caught everything, Mark's threats, Tara's lies, their panic when confronted, every word a nail in their coffin. I emailed the file to Sarah, my fingers steady on the keys, the motel's creaking walls a reminder of how far I'd come in one day. My phone buzzed with another text from Mark. You think you've won, but we've got more. Meet us tomorrow or we release the photos. The threat was hollow, their desperation clear, but I saved it, another piece of evidence for Sarah. I lay on the sagging bed, the quilt scratchy against my skin, and thought of Mark's smile on our wedding day, now a mask hiding his greed. Sleep came slowly, the hum of the motel's heater mixing with the echo of Tara's laugh, but I wasn't afraid, I was ready. By morning, the town was ablaze with gossip, the paper's headlines screaming, local coffee shop owner exposes husband's affair and fraud. I walked to Brood Awakening, the scent of fresh coffee grounding me, ready to face whatever came next. The shop was packed, customers crowding the tables, their voices a mix of support and curiosity as Jenna worked the espresso machine. Lydia, you're a hero, said Mrs. Carter, a regular since I opened, her eyes warm as she handed me a homemade cookie. I smiled, but my focus was on the laptop, where Sarah had sent new documents, bank records showing Tara's transfers to an offshore account. They thought they could hide it, Sarah said over the phone, her voice crackling with excitement. We've got enough for felony fraud, and the sheriff's ready to arrest Mark today. My heart raced, the weight of their betrayal heavy, but the town's support lighter than air. I called a meeting with loyal customers, their statements about Tara's cash demands piling up like kindling for my case. By noon, Maria arrived, her patrol car parked out front, her face serious as she handed me a warrant. Mark's at the station, Lydia, he's talking, trying to pin it all on Tara. I drove to the sheriff's station, the town square bustling with fair cleanup, the air sharp with pine and diesel. Mark sat in an interrogation room, his face haggard, his charm gone as he faced Maria across a metal table. Lydia, tell them it's a misunderstanding, he pleaded through the glass, his voice muffled but desperate. I shook my head, the USB drive heavy in my pocket, its evidence undeniable. You stole from me, Mark, you and Tara planned to take my shop, my life, I said, my voice calm, the betrayal a scar I'd wear proudly. Maria played the shop's footage, Mark's threats filling the room, his face crumpling as he realized he'd lost. Tara was next, arrested at her house, her designer purse abandoned as she was cuffed, her screams echoing down the hall. I watched not with joy, but with a quiet resolve, knowing I'd protected my shop, my home, my truth. Back at Brood Awakening, the afternoon rush was in full swing, the scent of espresso and muffins wrapping around me like a hug. Jenna had hung a sign, "Support Lydia, save our shop," and customers donated tips to a jar, unaware I'd already secured the accounts. I called Sarah, my voice steady as I reviewed the charges, felony fraud, theft, conspiracy, enough to keep Mark and Tara tied up in court for years. The town's behind you, she said, but they'll fight dirty. Be ready for their next move. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Tara, her voice shrill. You've ruined everything, Lydia. We'll make sure you lose the shop. I saved it, another piece of the puzzle, and walked to the counter, where Mrs. Carter handed me a petition signed by 50 customers, demanding I stay in business. Their support was my strength, and I knew Mark and Tara's threats were empty, their power broken by my plan. The shop's bell jingled, a new customer stepping in, and I smiled, ready to serve coffee and justice in equal measure. The next morning, I woke to a crowd outside Brood Awakening, neighbors holding signs, "We stand with Lydia." The scent of fresh scones drifted as I opened the door, their cheers warming me against the chilly air. Jenna had rallied the community, and the local news van parked nearby, a reporter interviewing customers about my fight. "Lydia's the heart of this town," Mr. Evans told the camera, his voice firm. Mark and Tara tried to rob her blind. I thanked them, my eyes stinging, but my focus was on the laptop, where Sarah had sent a draft of a civil lawsuit for damages. "We're suing for the $350,000, plus emotional distress," she said over the phone, her voice sharp. I nodded, picturing Mark's face in the interrogation room, Tara's screams as she was cuffed, their betrayal now a public spectacle. My plan was working, but I knew they'd strike back, and I was ready to meet them head-on. By afternoon, the news had spread beyond our suburb, the story picked up by a Denver outlet, the headline bold, "Coffee shop owner fights back against cheating husband." My phone buzzed with messages from old friends, even my sister, Anna, who lived in Seattle and hadn't spoken to me since my wedding. "Lydia, I saw the news. I'm coming to help," her text read, and I felt a spark of hope, a reminder of family beyond Mark's betrayal. I called a town hall meeting that evening, the community center packed with familiar faces, their support a wall against the lies Mark and Tara were spreading. "They're claiming I falsified records," I told the crowd, my voice steady, the microphone amplifying my resolve. I showed the video again, Mark's voice clear, Tara's signatures on fake invoices projected on a screen. The room erupted in boos, their anger a mirror of mine, and I knew I wasn't alone. As the meeting ended, Sarah pulled me aside, her eyes serious. "Mark's out on bail, Lydia. He's planning something, stay sharp." I drove back to the motel, the neon sign flickering, the night air heavy with the scent of rain. My laptop glowed as I reviewed the civil lawsuit, the damages now totaling $400,000 with interest. A new email from Sarah revealed Mark had tried to access the frozen account again, his desperation a sign my plan was working. I called Jenna, who was closing the shop, her voice tired but fierce. "Tara's been calling suppliers, saying you're bankrupt," she reported, "but they're not buying it, they trust you." I thanked her, saving her message, another thread in the web I was weaving. Sleep was elusive, the motel's heater humming, Mark's threats replaying in my mind, but I wasn't afraid, I was ready for their next move. The next morning, I'd face them again, my evidence airtight, my community unbreakable, their betrayal about to cost them everything. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Pinewood Motel, casting thin stripes across my laptop, where Sarah's latest email glowed. "Mark's out on bail, and he's desperate. Lydia, watch your back." The scent of rain from last night lingered, mixing with the motel's pine cleaner as I sipped cold coffee, my resolve as firm as the wobbly table beneath my hands. Brood Awakening, my coffee shop, was still mine, despite Mark and Tara's theft of $350,000 and their plan to sell it for $2 million. The town's support at last night's community meeting, their signs and cheers, felt like a shield, but Mark's latest threat, fake photos to ruin my reputation, hung like a storm cloud. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Tara, her voice shrill. "You think you've won, Lydia, but we'll burn your precious shop to the ground." I saved it, another piece of evidence, my heart steady despite the venom in her words. Jenna's video, the bank records, and the sheriff's warrant were my weapons, and I was ready to finish this fight. If you want to see a betrayer's world shatter, stick around for this story on Total Revenge. I drove to Brood Awakening, the familiar crunch of gravel under my tires grounding me as the shop's sign came into view, its hand-painted letters a beacon of my 5 years of sweat and dreams. The air inside was thick with espresso and cinnamon, the morning rush already buzzing, customers' voices a warm hum against the clink of mugs. Jenna greeted me with a hug, her apron dusted with flour, her eyes bright with determination. "The petition's up to 100 signatures," she said. pointing to the jar overflowing with tips, a testament to the town's loyalty. I nodded, setting up my laptop behind the counter, where Sarah's civil lawsuit draft outlined damages, $400,000 for theft, plus emotional distress. A regular, Mr. Evans, approached, his voice low. Lydia, Tara was at the diner last night, telling folks you're hiding money, trying to turn people against you. My jaw tightened, but I smiled, thanking him, my mind already plotting the next move. The bell jingled and Sarah walked in, her briefcase heavy with legal papers, her face set with purpose. Lydia, we've got Mark on fraud and conspiracy, Sarah said, sliding into a booth, her peppermint tea steaming as she opened her laptop. Tara's complicit, but she's claiming Mark coerced her. We need more to tie her directly. I handed her a USB drive with Tara's latest voicemail, her threat to burn the shop clear as day. This should help, I said, my voice steady, the scent of fresh scones calming my nerves. Sarah listened, her eyes narrowing, and nodded. We'll add extortion to the charges, and I've got a meeting with the DA at noon to push for Tara's arrest. Outside, the town square bustled with fair cleanup, kids laughing, the air sharp with pine and fried dough, a reminder of last night's triumph. My phone buzzed again, a text from my sister, Anna, who'd arrived from Seattle. I'm at the motel, Lydia, let me help. I texted back, inviting her to the shop, feeling a spark of hope, a family tie unbroken by Mark's betrayal. Anna walked in an hour later, her suitcase bumping the doorframe, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes scanning the shop with a mix of awe and concern. This place is you, Lydia, she said, hugging me, her voice warm but laced with worry. I saw the news, Mark's a snake and Tara's worse. What's the plan? I filled her in, the words spilling out, their affair, the stolen $350,000, their threats to ruin me. Anna's face hardened, her hands clenching as I played Tara's voicemail, her threat echoing in the busy shop. They're not just cheating, they're criminals, she said, her voice sharp, her loyalty a mirror of Jenna's. We sat with Sarah, reviewing the evidence, fake invoices, bank transfers, customer statements about Tara's cash demands. We go public again, Sarah said, at the town council meeting tonight. Show the voicemail. Let the town see their true colors. I nodded, the plan solidifying, my heart racing but ready for the fight. The council meeting was held in the community center, its wooden walls lined with photos of town festivals, the air smelling of polished oak and coffee from my shop's donated urns. The room was packed, neighbors and shop owners filling the chairs, their murmurs a mix of support and curiosity as I took the podium. Mark and Tara tried to steal Brood Awakening. I began, my voice steady, the microphone amplifying my words. I played the voicemail, Tara's voice chilling the room. We'll burn your shop to the ground. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and I showed bank records, Tara's signatures on fake orders for $20,000 in supplies never delivered. They betrayed me, but they betrayed this town too, I said, my eyes meeting Mr. Evans, Mrs. Carter's, their nods fueling my resolve. The council president, a gruff man named Tom, stood, his voice booming. Lydia's one of us. We won't let cheaters ruin her. The room erupted in applause, and I felt a surge of strength, my plan leaving Mark and Tara no room to hide. Mark showed up as the meeting ended, his truck screeching into the lot, his face flushed with rage as he pushed through the crowd. You're lying, Lydia, he shouted, his voice cracking. You faked those records to frame me. Tara was behind him, her eyes darting, her designer coat out of place among the flannel-clad townsfolk. I held up my phone, playing the voicemail again, Tara's threat silencing the room. You stole $350,000, Mark, I said, my voice calm, the crowd's murmurs backing me. Sarah stepped forward, handing him a cease and desist order, her voice sharp, leave, or you're arrested for harassment. Maria, the deputy, appeared, her badge glinting, and Mark backed off, his eyes wild, Tara pulling him away, their retreat a victory I savored. Anna squeezed my hand, her voice low. You're unstoppable, Lydia. They're finished. The crowd cheered again, and I knew the town was my fortress, their support unbreakable. Back at the shop, I locked up with Jenna and Anna, the night air cool, the scent of coffee lingering as we cleaned the counters. My laptop glowed with new emails from Sarah. The DA had approved Tara's arrest warrant, citing the voicemail and financial records. They're picking her up tomorrow, Sarah wrote, and Mark's bail is under review. He violated the restraining order. I shared the news, Jenna's cheer echoing in the empty shop, Anna's smile wide but cautious. They'll fight dirty, Anna warned, her eyes scanning the dark windows. Mark's desperate. He might try something reckless. I nodded, saving the email, my mind already mapping out security measures. New locks, cameras, a night guard. The shop's warmth wrapped around me, its wooden tables a reminder of why I fought, why I'd never let Mark and Tara win. I slept at the motel, the neon buzz a constant, my dreams filled with their faces, but my resolve stronger than ever. Morning brought chaos. I arrived at Brood Awakening to find the front window smashed, glass glittering on the floor, the scent of coffee mixed with the sharp tang of spray paint. Failure was scrawled across the counter, red paint dripping like blood, a note taped to the espresso machine. Give up, Lydia, or it gets worse. My heart sank, but anger surged, their desperation clear in the vandalism. Jenna arrived, gasping, her phone already dialing Maria, who pulled up minutes later, her notepad out, her face grim. This is retaliation, she said, photographing the damage. Mark was seen nearby last night. We're bringing him in. Anna helped me board up the window, her hands steady, her voice fierce. They're scared. Lydia, you're winning. Customers poured in, offering to clean, donate, even stand guard, their loyalty a balm to the destruction. I called Sarah, my voice steady, file for vandalism charges, and get a court order to keep them away from the shop. By noon, Maria had Mark back at the station, his alibi weak, his truck's paint matching the spray can found in Tara's garage. Tara was arrested at her house, her screams echoing as neighbors watched, her perfect facade crumbling. Sarah met me at the shop, her laptop open to a news article, local coffee shop vandalized, cheating husband and neighbor suspect. The town's turning on them, she said, her eyes bright. We've got enough for a conviction now. I nodded, sweeping glass, the broom scrape loud in the quiet shop, my heart heavy but unbroken. Anna brought coffee to the volunteers, her voice warm as she thanked them, her presence a reminder I wasn't alone. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You'll lose everything, Lydia. We're not done. I saved it, knowing it was Mark or Tara, their threats empty against my evidence and the town's support. The shop reopened by evening, the boarded window covered with a banner, Brood Awakening stands strong. Customers filled the tables, their tips overflowing the jar, their voices a chorus of encouragement. Jenna baked extra muffins, their blueberry scent masking the paint's sting, while Anna organized a community watch to guard the shop at night. Sarah filed the vandalism charges, adding them to the fraud and extortion counts, the damages now totaling $500,000. The DA's pushing for jail time, she said over the phone, her voice confident. Mark's bail is revoked. He's staying in custody. I thanked her, my eyes on the customers, their smiles a reminder of why I'd fought so hard. Mr. Evans approached, handing me a check for $1,000, his voice firm. For repairs, Lydia, you're not alone. I hugged him, tears stinging, my heart full despite the chaos, my plan leaving Mark and Tara speechless. The next day, I met Sarah at the courthouse, the brick building looming in the town square, its halls smelling of polish and tension. Mark's hearing was quick, his bail revocation confirmed, his face pale as he sat cuffed, Tara's absence a sign she'd turned on him. She's cooperating, Maria whispered, her notepad tucked away, claiming Mark planned the vandalism, the theft, everything. I nodded, my chest tight, the betrayal a scar I'd carry forever. Sarah presented the evidence. The USB drive, customer statements, the spray paint can, Tara's voicemail. The judge, a stern woman named Clara, ruled for a trial, her voice sharp. The defendant's actions show a pattern of deceit and harm. I left the courthouse, Anna at my side, the air crisp with autumn, the town square alive with support. My phone stayed silent, no more threats, their power broken by my evidence and the community's strength. I drove back to the shop, ready to rebuild, my heart steady, my plan complete.